Z is good.
Episode number 31.
Welcome to Seeking Focus, a podcast that provides photographers and videographers with a place to critically compare technology, share ideas, and enhance their skills.
Hey Marty, how's it going?
Mate, it's okay. I've got to control myself with all this shit that's happening at the moment. It's just everything, like I've got one client that hasn't paid me for like over 60 days now. And I'm just keep on messaging them I keep on emailing them, and I said, can I get paid now? And they owe me like $2,000, man. Like, I understand it's not a lot of money for people, but
For a small business it is. For a big business it means nothing, but
exactly right.
Which actually means that they should be paying you regardless.
Well,
I mean, it's nothing to them. But
my invoicing says 14 days, so 2 weeks I want to get paid. Yeah, if I do a job, I want to get paid in 2 weeks. And these assholes...
You're turning into me using profanities.
I know, bad. Hang on, let me have a drink.
I was actually listening to one of the previous episodes and you beeped me out in one of the words that I said.
I did. You were very rude.
I was very rude. You beeped me out. But ironically, in the next episode where I kept using the F word repeatedly, you didn't beep me out. Which
I should have probably put explicits on that.
Yeah, I should have. But anyway, so back to your story.
Yeah, well, no, everything is good, man. It's just, up and down like freaking any business, It's just... You got good days and bad days, and and it's just I don't know. It's just I had a bit of a downer last week, and this week hasn't really improved a hell of a lot. But look, it's all right. Can't complain.
The ups and downs.
Even if I complain, no one listens anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I was just going to say the ups and downs of running your own business.
Yeah, it is like that, and I think everyone just experiences it. You know what I mean? There's a couple of guys that I spoke to a while back, and they're all the same. Like we're busy when we're busy, and when it's not busy, it's crap, and we're depressed, and all that sort of stuff. So, and I normally try to create YouTube videos and content and whatever else. I just can't be bothered doing that. It's.
You've lost that loving feeling.
I've lost that loving feeling for some reason, man. I've applied for a job as well, man.
What?
I did. I know. It's
a photography and videography job?
No, it's a droning job.
But
I've already got rejected, man. So it's just so frustrating. No one wants me, man.
It was one of those jobs that says, this is an entry-level position, and then they say they need 6 years of experience.
No, they didn't. It was actually, you know what? Like this job that I found, it was really, really cool. It was, I'm not going to say who it was with, but it's a drone operator, and they want you to fly drones. I'm like, it's a dream fucking job, man, for me, man. You know what I mean? It's for, it will have to, they do all sorts of different things. So they do mapping, they do spraying, they do all sorts of different things. And I thought, you know what, this will be fantastic. You know what I mean?
I'm going to stop you there because you know how when you originally have a really great hobby that you love and you think, I'm going to make this into a business like photography or videography like we did, and then basically you'd start doing it and you lose that happiness and you just do it because it's a job. That's what would have happened. So be kind of happy with that because you can still enjoy your droning without it becoming a full-time miserable job.
Yeah.
And you still look miserable, but... well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Look, I think I haven't really had an interview for years, years and years and years. So when you sit down and, look, it all comes down to experience, I guess, at the end of the day. When you sit down and obviously speak to someone that you really want this job with, you get too excited, you start blabbing on, and you just
it does get you.
You got no idea what you're talking about sometimes, because you just don't have that experience in talking to people in trying to sell yourself. I sell myself every day by when a client contacts me, I obviously I can do this. I had a meeting this morning actually with a client, and they go, we want to create this testimonial videos and whatever else, and by the end of the meeting, it took about half an hour. By the end of the meeting, no worries, we're going to do this next week, and we're going to make sure everything is all okay. And so it's sold, and they haven't paid the deposit yet, but
it's going to be 2 months later, they're still not paying.
But they were really excited, and so you kind of feel good about it, But when I'm trying to go for a position that I really want, you just, I don't know, you just talk shit, and you just, I don't know, you just lose yourself. You know what I mean? I don't know. Did you get the same problem?
Look, I'm terrible at interviews. I'm good at what I do, but with interviews and upselling myself, I'm not very good at that. That's not my forte.
Yeah.
I'm a doer. I'm not a speaker.
Yeah, same. I can't talk shit. You know what I mean? If I start talking shit, it's just people just go, "What the hell? This guy's just dumb."
What you should do is pretend you're doing a podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because then you sound professional.
Yeah, true. Hey, what are we talking about? So then how was your week? Because my week was, miserable. So how was your week?
You're making me feel bad by saying that. It's like, and I'm sitting here laughing, which is even worse. My week has been really busy. So as I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, I work full time now in an office, and literally I leave the office, I run home, open up my PC, because I'm a PC-based person, and start doing editing until midnight. I go to bed at about 12:30. I've had some drinks or a tea or whatever to relax.
Yep.
Go to bed, wake up again at 7 o'clock, and the day it's like Groundhog Day every single day. That's all I'm doing. But in saying that, I can't complain. I'm happy with it. It's my two passions are being fulfilled. I wish I had a little bit more time, and I had a clone who could help me out. But
nice.
but other than that, not much. But did you notice today, completely unrelated to me and my week, but did you notice this afternoon the red skies?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, the whole sky's glowing red, and that's because of the fires that we're having down in Victoria and Australia at the moment.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so just past Ballarat, they've evacuated massive areas because the fires are going crazy there. Tasmania is also being, a lot of people being evacuated in Tassie. Don't know where they're going to go, but so there's fires left, right, and centre because of the heat wave that we've just had and the wind as well, which. Basically, the fires because of the hot weather, and then the wind picks up the sparks and can send an ember up to about 20-25 kilometres away to another place to start another fire. So they're just popping up left, right and centre. And I just hope everyone out there who is in those areas is safe. I do know, you might remember Isabella, who we had on the episode, on the show. We did an episode with her on the episode.
New Zealand.
Yeah, in New Zealand, that's right. She's actually just above the fires, and she's meant to be coming down tomorrow. And I was talking to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to drive through." And I'm like, "No, don't drive through." So she's going to have to drive all the way around to try and bypass it. And there's a lot of smoke down there. Yeah. But yeah, look, our thoughts go out with the people who are in those situations, and we hope you're okay. We hope your family and loved ones are okay as well. And I wish there was more we could do, but unfortunately, that's our weather here in Australia, which is at times pretty full on.
Sure is. Sure is.
Anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So that's the end of this episode. No, I'm just joking.
What are we talking about today, man?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Z is good.
Z is good.
What's all that crap about, mate?
Oh, take it
seriously.
You're just jealous because you don't have a Canon.
Well, a Z is Canon now, is it?
Well,
there's a Z cam as well.
Well, yes, there is a Z cam, but we're not talking about Z cam. We're talking about Canon Z. So for those people out there who aren't aware, there was a recent release by Canon of a new lens. It's the 24-105. Previously, everyone had the 24-105 f4. Canon's gone off and actually produced the 2.8, which I believe is a first for any company. I don't believe anyone else has actually released the 2.8 in that range.
As far as I know. If anyone else knows anything different, let us know.
Yeah, but as far as I'm aware, there isn't basically anyone else.
So you're telling me, Canon is being innovative?
They are.
Is that what you're trying to say?
This is actually...
Holy crackers.
Normally I don't talk about the lenses and stuff that we buy. We just talk about products that are given to us to review. But this is my own product. I actually purchased it with my own money, so we're not doing any sponsorship. No one's paying us to do it. And so the review is legitimate. It's basically us using...
Your thoughts, my thoughts.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean...
I haven't really used it much.
I was going to say your thoughts will be biased because you're not a Canon person anymore. So don't listen to him, okay?
What I'm saying is... When I saw this lens, I was impressed.
You were.
Yeah.
I remember you sitting there staring at it, and then you kicked the camera over and walked away.
It didn't fall though, did it?
Because it weighs so much. But yeah, so we're looking today, and we're talking about the new Canon 24-105 2.8 Z. So
and it's IS as well, so image stabilized.
It is image stabilized, but the Z is the big part. So
what is the Z?
Z is a new feature. Well, it's not really a new feature. A new class of glass that Canon's producing. So basically their lenses, they've taken a turn. So the Z series is basically a zoom series, and they're more skewed towards, as opposed to just photography, they are more skewed towards cinema, so video and photo. So it's a dual purpose lens, because normally you buy a photo lens and it does photos really well, but if you try and use it for video, it's pretty crappy. Or if you buy a cinema lens, you can't really use it for photos because it just doesn't look right, or the features aren't there. You've got no auto features, you've got everything's manual. So I mean, I've done it. I've used cine lenses for photos, and I've used normal photo lenses for video, but they haven't been the best results. So Canon's come across now, and they've come across, and produced this new lens that basically covers both areas, photography and videography. So it is a full-blown photo lens, but it's also at the same time a full-blown video lens. And we'll go through a few of those features, but it is one of the most versatile lenses that I have ever used. Now, there are a lot of reviews out there. I actually spent this afternoon having a quick look at a couple of the reviews, and I have to say, people, and this comes back to social media, which is my pet hate, as we've discovered in previous episodes, people like to promote themselves as knowing what the hell they're talking about and giving you advice and direction when they actually haven't got any hands-on experience of a product.
Yep.
So I've held off. I've had this for over 2 months now, possibly 3 months, and I haven't discussed it. I haven't done any reviews on it, purely because I didn't feel comfortable at the time until I actually had used it in multiple scenarios, and I could get a feel for it and understand it.
Yep.
And my gut feeling about this lens is that it's a fantastic lens. It is just amazing because you can use it for so many things, and I believe it will be on my camera quite substantially for a very, very long period.
There's one problem with it.
What's that?
It's Canon.
Yeah.
Just continue. I just thought I'd add that in.
Yeah, you can put that in. But it does the job of two different types of lenses.
Yep.
It's got a wide angle, and it's got a good zoom on it. It's very versatile. For a very long time, I used the RF 24 to 105 f4, and I love that lens. It's a good little lens, but it was an f4, and it was cheaply built. I mean, not cheaply because it is an L series, but it didn't have the quality of this lens. This lens is a battleship. It's amazing. So my perception of it is that it's a fantastic lens. It does have a few drawbacks. Enough to stop you from buying it? Probably not. But we'll talk about those things right now. Now, your first, when you first saw this lens, what was your first reaction? Because I by the way, everyone, I forced him to actually hold a Canon camera and play with it. And he actually said some positive things, which I never thought I'd ever hear from him. But
look, my first thoughts of it, damn, how big it is. It's, so when you think of 24 to 105, right? You think of 24 to 105 L series EF lenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
That lens there, the 2.8, is double that size.
Yes.
Double.
Yes. But... okay, and this is, a lot of people say that. They go, oh, the F4's half the size. It is half the size when it's actually closed up.
Yep.
But most of the RF lenses that have been released by Canon, the first generation of RF lenses, every single one of them zooms out.
Yeah.
So it's not contained within the actual lens.
Correct.
So
other than to 70 to 200, right?
No, the RF one extends as well. You're thinking of the EF.
Yes, EF.
EF, that was all self-contained, and that was a Series 2.
I don't know anything about RF because RF is just, when I dumped Canon, that's when all the RF stuff's coming out.
So RF, the first generation of lenses, predominantly most of the lenses, if you're zooming, the actual lens extends out.
Yep.
So with the F4 version of this lens, it is smaller when it's compressed and it's closed up. But when you go off and fully extend it, it's pretty much 3/4, if not probably 80 to 90% of the length of this particular lens. So whilst this one looks huge, it's because it doesn't close up like the other one. So yes, it is bigger, but not that much bigger. Right. So
I mean, look, I looked at it and I'm actually quite impressed. For a lens to be 24 to 105, which is obviously world's first at 2.8, it's big. I mean, look, I actually really enjoy big lenses because when I'm holding like 70 to 200, I actually feel like I'm actually holding something substantial.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So and feels good. I feel like, you know, like it's I love my
It's
70.
meaty. It's
Yeah,
meaty,
yeah. So I love my 70-200, and it's just such a brilliant lens. You know what I mean? So when I looked at this, and I kind of looked at it and go, wow, that's actually impressive. You know what I mean, for what they did. And you know, so we've got IS, so image stabilizer, in it as well.
Yep, and 3
Which is-
levels of image stabilization,
Yeah.
which I don't believe they've ever had another lens that had 3 different modes. So
Right.
you can actually do handheld image stabilization. They've got panning image stabilization for tripods, and there is one more which I can't. This is really embarrassing, but I actually don't know what it does. But it's it's an additional type of stabilization. So
So if
can
you
change it.
hold it, and if you hand hold it, would you be able to actually get reasonable footage out of it?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah.
Okay.
I've
Interesting.
actually done that. So one of the things that I did was I wanted to test it out before I actually spoke about it. And I've done video with it, and I've also done photography with it. And I did a shoot recently that went for 4.5 hours where I was using this camera. And it is a heavy camera because I have the R5C, which is attached to that particular unit. And look, it wasn't light. I won't say it was, I'm not going to lie to you and say it's light. It's definitely not light, but it is, you know, you can do it. I'm not Conan the Barbarian. I'm a cyclist, so I've got great legs, but my arms are like toothpicks. But I can still carry it around and do my job. If you were someone who's like, this is probably the wrong way of looking at it, but someone who didn't have top strength, very weak, I would probably say maybe not the lens for you. But it isn't super heavy. Like the original EF 70-200 is actually heavier than this.
Yeah.
All right, so you can get away with it. You can use it. It's not the lightest lens, but it's not the heaviest lens in the Canon RF series either. There's a 28-70 by Canon, which is an f2, and that's way heavier than this. So if you're using the 28-70 and you're wondering, oh, is this heavier? No, this is much lighter. It's actually lighter than the original EF 70-200 as well.
Go back a little bit, because RF, they've changed the focal lengths in a lot of ways. So I mean, the standard was 16-35, 16-35, 24-70, 70-200, and beyond, whatever, right?
Oh, they're still the same. So they've continued
but
those.
did you say 28 to
There's
70?
there's a 24-70. There's a 28-70.
Right.
The 20.
That's all RF.
Yeah, they're RF. So they've got a range. So they've actually, but the 28-70 is actually ginormous. This thing is huge. It's bigger than the camera almost. It's like, not that anyone can see this, but the actual camera, the front of it's about that wide.
So that's over 90 mil.
I can't remember what the thing on the front of it was, but I couldn't fit my matte box onto it.
Yeah, right.
I think it was massive, right? And it weighs a ton. And look, it's a great photo lens, but I tried to use it for video. So when I was looking for another lens, it was time to upgrade. I thought, I'm going to go look for a lens. For photos, it was amazing. It was fast. Now, we're talking about the 28-70 f2 lens here, not the one. But the focus breathing one, it was horrific. It was like, so if you were focusing on something close and then you focus on something far away, it looked like the lens was zooming in by about 10 times. It was terrible for video. So it really lacked. This lens basically has super fast focus. It's quiet. The focus breathing, which basically means the amount the lens sort of moves. So like if I'm focusing on something close and then I go somewhere far away, the picture remains remotely pretty much exactly where it is. It's not breathing. It's not getting bigger or smaller, which a lot of the other lenses, because they're designed for photos, they're not designed for video, they actually have this focus breathing problem. And the 28-70 is a prime example of that. It was horrific. It was like it was a zoom lens while I was trying to focus. It was really, really terrible. This one has a smidgen. And when I say smidgen, it has a little bit of a noticeable focus brief to it. But by comparison to the other ones out there, it's nothing. It's really well built for video.
Okay.
So it's like I'm saying, it's got the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's a lens that you potentially, like you said, like you put it on and you don't normally take it off. You
Pretty
can
much.
put that on the tripod.
Yeah. And
off air, you said that people have put this on the Ronin,
gimbal.
On the Ronin.
Yeah, the Ronin RS3 Pro. Someone's actually fitted it onto a Ronin,
Yeah, right.
and it balanced. because basically it's all internal. Everything's inside, so it doesn't expand like other lenses. But in saying that, no matter how much everything's still built inside the lens and there's no external moving parts, there is still a weight shift in the lens.
There is
when you're zooming, because
look,
it's still moving.
Ronin can handle that though. I mean, surely shouldn't be a problem with. I mean, balancing is one thing, but then obviously operating it and you shift obviously the lens inside.
It will actually, the Ronin RS3 Pro will actually hold it up. It droops a little bit, but it doesn't go nuts. So you can actually use the whole zoom lens from wide to completely zoomed in. And even though it does actually cause the camera to tilt a little bit on the actual gimbal, when you're using it, it doesn't go out of whack. So the motors can actually maintain it. So it's not a huge difference. But some of the other lenses actually throw a lot of weight around. So there is a weight shift in this one. In all honesty, though, putting this type of lens on a camera on a gimbal,
it's probably not designed for that, right?
It's not designed, and you wouldn't do it. It's not the type of you'd be silly to do it. To be quite honest, I mean, look, it's doable, but just because it's doable doesn't mean you should do it.
What lens do you normally use on there? You obviously got a Ronin as well, right? Because we discussed it. What lens do you normally would use on that?
It depends on if I'm doing internal indoor stuff, I'm using 16mm, and it's a full sense. I was gonna say it's not a crop sensor, so it's a full frame camera. So 16mm is 16mm, or 35 if I'm doing something like a wedding or whatever.
So 16 to 35. That's pretty much what I'll be using.
Yeah. So, but I'm talking about primes. I'm not talking about zoom lenses, I'll put one or the other on depending on what I'm doing. Right. The 16mm RF lens, which is not an L series, I might add, is actually super lightweight. In fact, it's probably about 3 times bigger than a pancake lens from the old EF days. So it's very small and minimal, and the focus is actually reasonably fast on it. So that's pretty good. So back to the original discussion, the 24 to 105, the 2.8, which has just come out. It allows you to basically be able to focus from about 45 centimeters away from the actual. So it's not a macro lens. It's never been pretending to be one, but from 45 centimeters away from the camera onwards, it'll focus, no problem there. So it's really good at that. Now, it is meant to be parfocal. Meaning basically, if you focus on something while the camera's wide, like if you've got the lens is wide open, so you're getting like a huge shot, like everything around you. Wide shot. There you go. Stumbling for words today. And you focus on something, and then you zoom into the actual image, like you zoom in from 24 all the way to 105. The focus will stay the same. Now, a couple of the reviews that I saw from other people were saying that they had issues with theirs where the focus wouldn't stay 100% perfect. And look, the parfocal thing, there's 2 ways of doing a parfocal. One is basically it's a mechanical system that's built in and it's always just there, or you've got one which basically adapts. So it's as you're zooming in, the camera's realizing you're zooming in, and it's focusing. The motors are focusing really, really quickly, so it looks like it's hasn't changed at all. So there's a mechanical, and then there's the electronic version of parfocal. Mechanical's obviously better, but I'm not sure about this lens. I haven't been able to find clarification if it's parfocal electric, like a motor in there, or if it's actually the whole lens is built mechanically to do that. So I'm not 100% sure which one it is, but it is parfocal. I've never had a problem with the zooming in. It's like everywhere I zoom or zoom out, the focus is exactly the same. There was someone else who did a review and basically said that they were struggling with that. And it might have been a faulty lens. It might have been an early production version where they were testing it out. I don't know. But for me, it's worked fine. So, and that's what it's meant to do.
Well, when I put my hands, grab your hands on it, I mean, the focus was pretty impressive. I mean, when I focused, like when I sort of panned onto you, straight away grabbed onto your face. Yeah. And it basically stuck to it like a Sony.
Yeah, and in Sony's defense, they've actually always had a really good focus system.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Probably, I'd say, better than Canon. It's always impressed me, the Sony focus.
Yeah. Well, look, I was saying, this lens now, it's actually quite impressive for what it is. You know what I mean? Other than the size of it, which I understand they can't really reduce the size because of what we're dealing with focal lengths and obviously apertures. But mate, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I absolutely love it. But okay, so we'll continue on. So with all the new RF lenses in the L series sort of lenses, they've introduced an additional ring. So you've got your zoom ring, you've got your focus ring, and the focus ring on this one is silky smooth. It is really, really nice.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
You can pull focus on this lens without a problem. It is fantastic. They've introduced an additional ring now, which allows you to program it to do whatever you want it to do. So you can have that additional ring you can twist it around and it can change your ISO, you can change the focus types, it can do a variety of different things. So you can pre-program the focus, the additional ring to do different things. This lens has that additional ring there.
Yep.
So in addition to that, it's also got little buttons on the camera. There's 2 buttons on either side. So one's when you can reach over and press the button when you're doing horizontal work, or if you're doing horizontal landscape, or if you're doing portraits, you can actually, there's a button on the other side, so it's easy, so you can press either one of them depending on how you're holding the camera. Now from factory, that button basically, it stops the focus function. So if you're using the autofocus function, and I'm basically focusing on you, and I decide to move the camera along to something else, it's automatically going to try and hunt for something else, now be it another person, be it an object or whatever. But if I basically don't want it to hunt, I can actually press that button and it will just keep the focus exactly where it is. It locks it out. So it doesn't allow the motor to do anything. So it keeps the focus there. That's as it comes from factory. But you can pre-program those buttons to basically do other things. And there's a variety of different things you can do with them. So many boggles your mind. There's a whole menu structure of like 4 or 5 pages of different functions. Now, the only way you can actually use those buttons is if you upgrade the firmware. And there's a firmware patch for this camera, the R5C, I was going to say 2, which hasn't come out yet, that basically came out in late January. You will need to have that patch on your camera, be it an R5, be it an R5C, be it an R6. You need to have the latest version of the firmware to be able to use the function keys on this lens. One of the most amazing things that they did on this Z series camera is they've introduced a manual aperture control. And it's a declicked aperture control as well. So there's a button on the side where if you press it, it suddenly releases an aperture ring. So this is the 4th ring on this camera. So you've got zoom, focus, you've got one which you can assign it to whatever you want it to do. And then you've got the 4th one, which is your aperture. So you can actually run and gun while you're doing videos and change the aperture. So if you're walking around in a dark room, you can have the aperture fully closed or open, and then you go into another room where the actual light changes, and instead of having that clicking, how it clicks from one aperture, 2 to 2.3 to 2.6, and you can see that shutter effect where it's changing, and it's like you can actually control it by hand, so you get these smooth transitions, right? And this is very, very typical of a cine lens, because cine lenses basically always allowed you to change the aperture. And one of the most expensive features of these lenses was the aperture control. Now, the interesting part behind this is it's a combination of a cine lens and a photo lens, right? So whilst it has the ability to allow you to change the aperture, it can also so it's got manual control, but at the same time it's still got auto control if you want it. So you can be changing the aperture like a cine lens, but you can also be using the lens as an auto lens, like a camera lens, to be focusing on things. So it can become, instead of being a fully auto lens or a fully manual lens, it becomes a semi-auto lens. So you can,
sounds very techy.
So you can manually control it, but it's also, it's unique. It's very, very unique. And
sorry, hold that thought. I'm just wondering, like, with all these features, right? Like, you almost need a freaking uni degree to be able to, program everything. And how hard is it to actually program all of this stuff in?
It's not actually hard. I struggled originally when I came across to this camera, because I've always used the Blackmagics, which are fully manual. Everything was done by hand. Your focus was done by hand. Your aperture was done by hand. Everything was done by hand. And there was no focus, like autofocus or anything like that. So you had to do your own focusing. So when I came across to this, everyone was like, oh, wow, it's going to be so much easier because it's called autofocus. And I was like, yeah, it's going to help me because, I can focus on someone's eye because, Sony had the iFocus, and I was always looking at it, envious.
that's right.
It was really good.
Yeah.
You know, you were able to run your lenses at f2 and do interviews, and
1.4.
1.4. I think it's excessive, but anyway. But, you know, you were able to track a person's eye, and it always stayed in focus. There was a few times where your camera went a bit nuts. And
That was with,
we won't get into
that wasn't with the G Master lens.
Yeah, it wasn't a G, but it was still a Sony. But, you know, but for the most part, it had an amazing tracking and focus. And, you know, I was doing it all manually, and look, it was fine. But I always looked at that auto feature, and I thought, that's really cool. You know, I would love to have that option. Not that I want to use it all the time, because I'm still using this lens manually, ironically. But it has the option if you want to do auto eye, you know, just eye tracking, or you can actually tell it to, you know, zoom in on a particular product, or it's just amazing. Anyway.
Yeah. So you're telling me Canon actually caught up to Sony now with focusing?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is it's just surpassed.
Right.
Yeah. So that's surpassed. Yeah. But anyway, this concept that they've got, this ability to do photo and video. There are rumors circulating that the next generation of lenses that are coming out from Canon, I was about to say Sony there because it's stuck in my head now. The next generation of lenses that is coming out, like the Series 2 of the, say, 70 to 200, will have these features on them. All right.
So this is pretty much world first from Canon.
Yeah, it is. And for that focal range and, you know, the f-stops and stuff, it was a world first, but also including the manual and auto features in the same lens was pretty impressive. So if they do go that way with the other lenses, it's going to be fantastic, because it's basically making a product that can meet two different markets and combining them as one. And the reason I bought this camera in the first place is because when I travel, I like to take photos, but also I like to take video. In past, I'd have to carry my Canon plus my Blackmagic, and the amount of room it would take to carry, and batteries, because they never had the same batteries, and it was a nightmare. Right? So I wanted this camera purely because it allowed me to do everything. Now, this lens lends itself to the same concept. It allows me to do everything. If I want to do video, that lens is perfect for it. If I want to do photos, it's perfect for that too.
True.
You know, so...
that's good. I mean, it's impressive, man. I mean, yes, it's... If I was a Canon user, I'll probably look into it.
Yeah. All right. Now, one of the things that actually confused the hell out of me with a couple of the most recent RF releases from Canon is, traditionally, they've always had the zoom function at the back of the lens and the focus function at the front of the lens. Traditionally, that's how they've always done the EF lenses. But when it came to the new RF 70 to 200, they swapped it around. So the zoom was at the front, the focus was at the back, which caused me grief because I'm set in my ways, you know, and automatically I reach for a particular thing, and if it's not there, I'm trying to zoom in while I'm changing the focus, you know, and it never worked for me. With this lens, they've gone back to a traditional layout. So the aperture is at the back, then you got the zoom lens, and you got the focus, and then you got the fourth additional one, which allows you to do whatever you want, which is
at the front.
Yeah, which is normally not something you'd normally go for, so it's a great place for it. So they've gone back to the original layout. Once again, fantastic for people like me who are set in their ways, and I don't adapt very well, so it's fantastic for me. You know, so there you go. Diameter of the lens, 82 mil. So you can, if you want to get filters and stuff like that, 82 mil is the way to go. I straight away went off and bought myself a UV filter. I know you love UV filters. That's why I got one. Small plug on the side. Polar Pro has released a new UV filter. I'm a big fan of the Polar Pro products myself.
Yeah, it's good.
Good quality. They've released a new one, which is called Armor. So it's a UV filter, but it's called Armor. So it's 4 times stronger than the normal UV filter glass. So you can really, you know, beat the camera up a little bit, and it's not going to break. So tempered, I believe. So it's a new product that's out there. It's an extra $10 or $15 from the original UV filters out there, but it gives you that peace of mind that, you know, your lens is going to be protected, and a lens of this caliber and this price range, which we haven't gone into the price range yet. I'm waiting till the very end to bring that in. But you do want to protect this lens. It's like having a Ferrari and not letting it go out of the garage, you know, leaving it and protecting it.
True. Look, you know, I mean, I'm not a fan of obviously UV lenses. I'm not a fan of UV filters. But there is a place for it as far as I'm concerned. You know? So if you're doing mountain bike photography or whatever else, definitely 100%. I would buy one just for that. You know what I mean? Or if there's anything potentially that can be flicked into the lens, then I'll definitely use it. Do I own one? No.
You used to own them.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's before you cared about. That's when you used to care about your lenses when they were Canons. Now you don't care about them because they're Sony.
I jump in front of my lenses if there's anything going to be hit. My body will absorb the rocks and all the filth that's going to come. No, I think I do agree that with that lens being such a bit of a beast, I think it's definitely worthwhile protecting it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So the armor is really good. There is a problem with using UV filters on this lens. We will get into that when we go against the cons. Look, I personally have left it on there, but there is an issue. But anyway, we'll get into it in a moment.
Yeah,
okay, so aperture blades on the lens. Most Canon lenses have about 9 aperture blades. Mm-hmm. This one has 11. Drum roll. Boom, boom, boom.
What does that mean?
Basically, the bokeh and the visual effect that it gives you is a really nice background. It's very visually the same almost as a 70-200. So I've actually just recently done some portrait work with this, and it had the images that came out of it looked like I had shot them with a 70-200. So it's really nice for portrait work. Personal opinion, of course. I mean, everyone's slightly different, but for me personally, it worked really well. I had the room well lit. Picture the subject matter was crystal clear, super sharp. This lens is a very, very sharp lens. Probably not as sharp as the 28-70, but it is possibly a little bit sharper than the 24-70. But yeah, so anyway, so 11.
Can I just ask, were you shooting the subject for the portraits at like 70 to maybe 105 or around that sort of?
I was, yeah. It seems to be a little bit more sharper when you're zoomed in. There are a few issues when you're going wide. Once again, we will be getting to that. And I say, you're jumping the gun. You're just looking for the bad things, aren't you?
I am looking at the bad things.
Yeah. Okay, so 11 aperture blades. It also has a tripod mount, very similar to the 70-200, once again, the old 70-200. Interestingly enough, this one's actually got a quick release on the actual the actual foot that fits onto the tripod. So because it's such a big lens, it's got its own tripod mount on the lens, so the camera just sort of hangs in the air and balances itself out.
Like the 70-200.
It does. Yep. 70-200, basically, you couldn't get that foot off. You'd have to take the whole ring off.
Yes.
So this one actually allows you to take the whole ring off if you want. When I say a ring, it's a mounting ring, which basically fits around the whole entire lens and holds it in place. Or there's a little button at the bottom of a screw, and if you press it, it quickly releases the actual foot of that ring. So if you want to not have the foot there for like a tripod mount and use it like a normal lens where you hold onto the lens, just press a button, bang, it's quick release. So that was a nifty feature.
Wow, Canon's thinking. Good job, Canon. I salute you.
Sarcasm, I can feel it. Lastly, look, the range, it's 24 to 105 has always been one of those lenses that I've always carried in an f4 because no one ever had anything better than an f4. As a travel lens, it's a very universal. It does a bit of everything. It does your wide angle, so you can do landscapes. It does your portraits. It does close-ups, so you can... and I've always used the 24 to 105 as a travel lens. And look, when I do functions, I always use that as well. It's been a great lens. Even for video, I've occasionally used that. I mean, it had shortcomings because it was a still lens. It wasn't a video lens, but it was still pretty decent. So it is lacking. I mean, you'd want it to have a little bit more than 105. Now, depending on the camera you've got, like I've got the R5C, mine shoots in 8K video. Now, if I wanted to zoom in a little bit more, I can actually basically put it into Super 35 mode, which is a crop sensor, and it basically gives me up to about 155 mil. So you're going to lose a little bit of the image quality, but if you're shooting at 8K, it's going to drop down to it's still going to be more than 4K. So, it's not going to be a huge difference.
Correct.
And you still got room to play with it. So there's no problem there. If you wanted to do that, realistically, they probably don't need more than 105.
I agree.
It's one of those things.
I think it's a good focal length to have, and 70 sometimes lacks a little bit, but I think 105 is just right. Yeah.
It is. Look, it's one of those lenses that I bought it with the intention of basically leaving it on my camera predominantly most of the time. Now I've got two of these cameras, so I figured I'll use the other one to play around with different lenses and stuff and leave this one on this one. But there are some shortcomings.
Yeah, okay.
So whilst I praise this lens and I think it's fantastic, I think it also has a few issues.
Yeah.
And, I'm being realistic about it. So the first issue is when it's open wide, so like you're doing landscape and stuff like that, it has distortion. Right, okay. So walls that are meant to be perfectly straight are not perfectly straight. There is a slight bow to them. You can see it. Right. Now, Canon, in their infinite wisdom, and I believe a lot of manufacturers are doing this at the moment, they're producing these lenses where when you take the photo, the image is perfectly straight.
Yep.
It's been corrected by the camera. So the camera sees the photo, it corrects it, and gives you the final product, which is basically perfectly sharp, perfectly straight.
Yep.
But if you were to take that modification off from the camera, so you had it in Lightroom, for example, and you took the correction off, you'd suddenly see the bowing. Additionally, what you will see within the bowing is vignetting. Now,
vignetting. Yeah, okay.
I didn't say vignetting this time, did I? I keep stuffing that word up. I don't think anyone can possibly say it right except for you, okay? So you do get that vignetting.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Don't make fun of my speech impediments, right? But you get a substantial amount of it. Now, the camera
This is on 24.
24, yeah. So the camera will correct it, and you will never see it. The correction, though, it's kind of weird because I'm still trying to get my head around how the camera's correcting it, because for you to be getting a 24mm shot, it must be shooting wider and then cutting the edges off when it fixes everything up. So technically, I'm thinking this lens, I should say, not camera, is shooting wider than 24 and allowing for the cropping and adjustments from the camera in there. One of the functions I did recently, I was doing some close-up shots, and I had the lens wide open to 24. And I was playing around with the settings on Lightroom, and I pressed take the adjustments off, right? And I had this big, massive black ring around the whole image. And I was like, what the? Right? It just spun me out. I was like, where did this come from? So I hadn't expected that. But because it's auto...
So it's not actually baked in?
Well, it is baked in. But
what's
happening is the camera's correcting it, and it's changing the final image, but it's a raw image, so you can convert backwards and forwards, right? I mean, if you're shooting in JPEG, it's a different story altogether.
How many megapixels are we talking about with this?
This is 45, 48, 45 fingers. Okay. Yeah. So you can crop into these images so close, and you lose nothing. I'm still spinning out about how much crapping. That's how much crapping I'm doing. How much cropping I'm doing. Crapping is the other thing I do. And I'm not losing any of the image quality, which is sensational. Great camera. The R5 has also got the same abilities, not as high as resolution, but actually, I'm not sure they might be the same resolution. Anyway, but they're both great cameras when you're actually editing. The R5's got its own issues, but anyway. It has distortion, it has vignetting. You don't see it if you do the correction. It looks quite nice. There was in a couple of photos where I was looking at them with the correction, I noticed the edges of the image had been stretched out. It was almost like they had taken a couple of pixels and then stretched them out over, the equivalent of about 7 or 8 pixels just to fill in the frame. It was... Wow. I'm not exactly sure why that happened.
Is it worthwhile getting one of those boards? Those I don't know the name of them, but
one of the focus boards and stuff like that. Yeah. If you're into that type of thing, you can play around with it. Me personally, I don't have any use for it, but a lot of people use them to see what the focus is like. Now, this lens, when it's wide open, has a little bit of focus issues on the outside. It is a bit soft, not in a bad way, but it is softer on the outside. But I mean, what are you're looking at a lens that does 24 to 105. There's a pretty broad range, so there's going to have some drawbacks to it. And that's one of them. The edges are slightly soft. And then you get the vignetting. Vignetting? I put the G in there. I don't know, it's vignetting. There you go. Take the G out. It actually works. There you go. My speech impediment's better suddenly. Thanks, Marty. But the thing is, with vignetting, am I pronouncing it right now?
Yeah, it's close enough.
Close enough, yeah. You've just given up, haven't you? the big V. I'm just going to call it the big V.
Yeah.
I personally actually add that into my pictures when I'm I like it. It sort of centers your eye into the middle of the
if
picture.
it's not too much.
Yeah, no,
and
we're not
if it's
talking.
obviously, it's
Just
a
gentle.
subtle kind. Yeah, that's fine.
And look, this lens, there are times when it's actually pretty extreme. But I'm thinking it's also because I had the UV filter on it, which actually then basically made it even longer. I know. I openly admit that the UV filter has issues with this, because it is reaching, the outside of the lips of the actual lens, and anything more than that's causing it to basically cause the vignetting. I'll eventually get it. At the end of the day, it does have that drawback, but at the same time, it can be a positive. Depends on how you look at it. I think probably drawback more than positive, but anyway. The lens itself is much longer than the f4 because it doesn't contract. Yeah. So, real estate wise, when you're packing into a bag and stuff like that, it is.
The benefit of that is, when we did the India trip, for instance, India and Nepal, I brought my 24-70, I brought my 70-200. I could potentially get away with just bringing that lens. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I did. I actually brought the 16-35 and the 24-105. And that was more than enough for me. But you did some close-up shots with the 70-200, which were amazing. And I could never do that unless I went to Super 35.
Yeah.
Which it's still not going to hit the 200 mark, but it's going to be close enough.
Close enough, yeah, correct.
But do you want to be screwing around trying to change settings and stuff when you're about to take...
Well, I'd rather be changing settings than lenses, though.
It's true. So that's another problem. The weight of this lens is about 1.3 kilograms. So it's lighter than the 70-200 EF one, which we're using as a comparison. It is a heavy lens. But once again, it is not the heaviest lens that Canon produces. There are much heavier ones like the 28-70, which is a f2. That thing is a tank. Yeah. And in hindsight, I'm glad I never didn't buy it. I was actually on the verge of buying it until I saw the focus briefing, but, And one of the... this is probably something I should have said right at the beginning. This lens is the Z series, so Z is good. It's designed to basically have a motor drive connected to the side of it, so you can actually have a little button on the side. It's a little motor, and it just bolts onto the actual lens itself, and it allows you to electronically use the zoom control, so zoom in, zoom out, and it's a steady progression as opposed to zooming by hand.
Hang on. So we're talking about like a full focus pull?
Yeah, so basically it's not focus but zoom.
Yeah.
So you can zoom in and out, and it's a controlled zoom as opposed to doing it by hand where it might be a bit jittery, which I might add, I've actually done a bit of zooming on this when I was recording, and it was actually pretty damn good for a person who doesn't normally use zoom lenses. It was reasonably smooth. I was very impressed with it. The motor would be way better. It's almost like back in the old days when you're having struggling here. And
I am struggling.
Okay, remember your old handycams?
Yeah.
Right? They used to have a zoom function on. You press a button, zoom forward, zoom back.
Yes.
This lens allows you to have a little connector on the side of it, which will basically allow you to basically do that. Right. So it's a little motor drive. The actual part for it is called the PZ-E2 or the PZ-E2B. And if you're inclined to doing sports stuff and you're zooming in and out all the time, and that's something you want to do, then it's a great feature.
Interesting.
Originally, I was like, oh, yeah, this is pretty cool. I might get one. Then I saw the price. The price of it was not that good. The motor, have a guess how much the motor drive costs. And we're talking battery-operated little device. My mouth dropped.
Like a AA battery kind of thing?
I'm not sure if it's a AA or rechargeable, what it is, but it's just this little nifty thing that sits on the side of the lens and it has a button on it. It's a motor. Look, backwards, forward. Jeez, you must be rich.
Well, I'm just thinking
$500 for something that has a battery in it and a motor that goes backwards and forwards.
Well, it's a Canon, man. So Canon would charge arm and leg for anything these days.
And Sony doesn't?
Well, they do, but it actually works.
Hey, it works on the Canon as well. I just can't afford it. No, not $500. You ready for it? Your mouth is going to drop when you hear this. $1,800. $1,800 for a motor to strap on the side of your lens to give it that backwards and forwards.
Is it gold plated?
No, it's just plastic.
Damn it. What else can we add to that?
So at this stage, I'm sort of like thinking, yeah, it would be nice to have, but at that price range, no. Yeah. Even if I had money coming out of my rear end, I still wouldn't buy it because it's a
cost of
You could buy another. No, I know what you're gonna go here, but it's a cost of another lens, right?
It is, yeah, they're exactly right.
Right. Well,
What are they thinking, mate?
Well,
You know,
when you compare it to the cost of this lens, it actually isn't that much. So
Yeah,
this
right.
is the biggest downfall of this lens.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Okay, you ready for it? Okay.
This is like $100 million.
Drum roll. No, yeah. Look, I picked this one up on sale, and it was over $5,000.
Wow.
I think they're about 5,300 or 5,500. The exact price at the moment,
So,
I don't know, but
US looking around sort of $4,000 mark.
3.5,
Okay.
I think so.
Wow.
But yeah, so look, it is an expensive lens,
See-
no doubt about it.
Yeah. So okay. So normal Joe Blow wouldn't
Yeah,
obviously
so
just
look,
buy that.
you can get the f4 version of this lens,
Yeah.
and it's $1,700.
It's a big difference, isn't it?
Huge. It's almost 3 times the price
Wow.
difference. But in saying that, it's all inbuilt. It's basically silent motors in it. It's got all these functions. It's got the aperture control. It is just, the amount of stuff in it is just endless. It is a beautiful lens. It does video. It does photo. It doesn't have focus creeping. It's amazing. But there are limitations.
So they obviously put all the best shit in that.
They did.
And
This is
they
like their
just wanna
flagship
charge
at the
you.
moment.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is probably where they're going to be going from here on.
Mm.
There's a lot of rumors going around. I don't like rumors because they're usually wrong, but it's a logical progression. This is going to be very successful. People are drooling over it. The people who are negative about it are generally the people who can't afford it. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth.
well, it's not an easy. Are they still producing EF lenses?
Possibly. There's still a market for it. And EF lenses haven't really dropped in price. Actually, they haven't dropped in price at all.
And Blackmagic still uses them, right?
They do. I believe Red cameras have now just released the RF.
I heard about that actually. Yes,
yeah.
you're right.
So this type of lens on a Red would be sought after. So what would I use this lens for? Would I use it for travel photography? As much as I'd love to say yes, I'm probably going to say no.
Wow.
I probably would not take
Is
this
it because
travel.
of the weight?
It is. If I was doing just photos, or if I was just doing video, would I take this lens? No. If I was doing both, then there is a chance that I'd carry it. Probably wouldn't be able to carry any other gear because it's substantially large. And then when you've got the whole camera kitted out with matte box and V-Lock batteries and monitors, it becomes huge. I mean, I walked in here with the camera bag today, and the first thing he said to me was, "What the fuck is that bag? It's huge."
Yeah.
And that's a prime example of how big
Well, I
this
put
is.
that camera on the weight. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
It was over 4 kilos.
But think about it, 4 kilos with a lens that weighs over 1.3 kilos. It's got a V-Lock, it's got sliders on the bottom, it's got mounting plates for...
You've got a Shinobi 7 on that as well.
Shinobi 7 on the top, which in itself is almost a kilo. It's got a matte box on the front of it. It's running filters. So realistically, 4 kg is really not that much for what's in front of you.
Yeah, true.
It is. If I dismantled it all...
I'm guessing my FX6 will probably be roughly about the same.
Yeah. Would you carry your FX6 with you if you were traveling?
No.
No, because it is pretty bulky, right?
Yeah.
So this is that point where you sort of go, if you're a hardcore person who's really into your photography and video and you're going to do both of them, you might argue the point. I still think the F4 version is quite durable and you can get away with it. But it depends on the level of production you're going to do. If you're just happy with good quality but not going crazy, then the F4 would be sufficient for traveling with. This would be if you're going to go over and capture those amazing shots that you're just going to to wow everyone with.
Is it more of a studio lens, you reckon, or?
Well, it's a bit of everything. So, I'm used it at events. I've used it as portrait stuff. I've done studio portraits. I've done video with it. I've done handheld. It really does do everything, right?
The question is as well, I mean, when you were purchasing it and you knew what you know now, would you still purchase it?
Yeah, even more so. I'm very happy with it. The drawbacks are that it doesn't have the huge zoom ability. So eventually down the track, I will probably buy the 70 to 200. I'm holding off with the hopes that they will, because they're meant to be releasing something this year new. I'm hoping, I doubt it's going to happen, but hoping that they release the new Series 2 RF 70 to 200 with the same features as this lens. With the aperture control on it, because that's just logical. You've got this one, then you got the next one up. The only thing that this is missing is that super wide sort of shot, and basically there's the RF 15 to 35 2.8, which is, we used to have those ones in the EF series, and they were 16 to 35. They are super, super sharp, and they would be an amazing landscape lens. I think if you're going to be doing wide stuff, you probably want to have one of those lenses too. So I think if you had 3 lenses, you can get away with it to cover every base, except for macro, obviously. So you'd have your 15 to 35 for wide angle, you'd have this for pretty much everything in between, and then you'd have your 70 to 200 for zooms. So you could get away with 3 lenses as a full kit, but it's not going to be cheap, because the 15 to 35 is about 3,500, I think. The 70 to 200 is about 4,000. So you're still looking at about 12,000-13,000 Australian, which is probably.
I was going to say, like, if you sort of put into perspective of obviously going wide, mid, and zoom, this lens pretty much covers most of that field.
You could get away with just using this.
Correct.
You can.
It
would limit you
saving yourself some cash as well in that sense.
So you could get away with this for almost everything. It does limit you on the far end of both sides of this lens, like you're super wide and you're super zoomed in sort of shots. But overall, I reckon you could probably use this lens for about 85% of your photography.
Yeah. Okay.
So
should I buy it?
Yeah, you should. I mean, you don't have a camera to put it onto because you've got a Sony, but you should buy it. But being that they've actually done this, I would say that it won't be long before Sony introduces a very, very similar design.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong here, because
you're wrong.
I could be wrong.
You're wrong. Canon is better.
Yeah, no. Canon did something about this RF thing. I heard someone, I don't know if I was listening to a podcast or something else.
You listen to other people's podcasts?
I do. I know. It's like that Aldi commercial. You see other people or other shops or whatever it is. But what I heard is things like Metabones, they're not going to create a Metabones for RF lenses. Because of the fact that the Canon doesn't want to release I don't know, whatever it is.
They're not opening their doors to letting third parties produce lenses. That was the way it was. They've actually opened up their doors, I believe, now, or they're about to. So they are actually going that way. So other companies are going to jump on board.
I heard that about a year ago, if not more.
It was a while ago. They were holding onto their patent and they weren't letting anyone else do anything. But I can understand. It's their product, so they want to produce more stuff with their product.
No, mate.
It's like going off.
They just want they just want a money printing press just be right there in the Canon store to be able to say, hey, we want to charge you $5,000 for the lens. And if you don't have $5,000 stuff you can't get it. Well, you know what?
Wait. Hang on a sec. Let's take a step back, right? You use G Master, that's the top of the range Sony. Yeah. How much are their prices on G Master lenses?
Yeah, but we're not talking about that right now.
We're talking about
you can still buy a Sigma or a Tamron or whatever else.
Is it as good?
No, of course not. But
there you go. That's why you're paying top dollar for it.
Well, yeah, but that's why couldn't they release the patent to be able to create something cheaper?
Well, they're about to.
Okay, let's hope so.
But like at the end of the day, the majority of my lenses when I was using Canon, when I first started off, was Canon. Third-party ones, I think I probably had a total of about 7 lenses that were third-party out of 30 lenses. So it's not a large proportion. And the reason I had those 7 or so lenses was because I was using, micro four thirds cameras as well. I was using the small black Magics, like the GoPro versions of them. So I had to have those lenses, and I couldn't use an EF lens on it. I used an adapter; it just never really worked properly. So that was the reason for it. But predominantly, most of my glass, other than one Sigma lens, Art Series, has been just EF L series lenses. And I'm still using them, ironically, because with an adapter they work reasonably well with the RF mount. So
they focus still okay with that?
Yeah, they do. They're actually surprisingly good. I thought they'd be quite dismal, to be honest with you. The only reason that I actually prefer the RF at the moment is because they do focus faster. They are slightly sharper. They're smaller because when you put the adapter on, it suddenly stretches out the camera and makes it really long. Not that I can say the same thing about this lens. This is ginormous by comparison. But, like, for example, when I put the 16 to 35 onto this camera and I've got the adapter on, it just looks really weird. It's like just long stick figure that hanging off the front.
How much is the adapter for that?
The adapters are dirt cheap, which I was really surprised about. Canon's done an amazing job. I think they're about $100 to $120 for an adapter. So
really,
you can run an
that
EF
cheap?
lens. Yeah. And there's different types of adapters as well. So there's the one where basically it's just a standard adapter, so you can put an EF straight onto an RF mount, or you can actually have an adapter that has filters into the side of it. So it's got a little drawer and you open it up and put filters in. So you can run a filter between the actual lens and the camera.
Okay.
And they're only like about $200 or $300. And there are third-party versions of these floating around as well. So, but it's been really cheap. It's not like Metabones where you're paying $1,000 for a speed booster or something or an adapter.
Yeah, I don't know the prices.
They haven't gone down. Metabones has always been one of the most expensive things I've ever seen.
You know what though? Like, since I got my kit, so I've got, I don't know, probably about 5 or 6 different lenses at the moment. But since I got my kit of wide, macro, super wide or whatever else, 24 to 70, 70 to 100, I found that covers me for pretty much most of my things that I need to do for work and personal stuff.
When you start off, I think you go a little bit crazy and you go off and buy 4,000 lenses because you think you need to have every single one of them. And I know I did it.
That's you though. Yeah.
I have a problem. I need counselling.
Just an issue.
But it's but like this time around with the RF lenses, I'm really holding back, and I'm sort of like, well, I don't really need that. And I've learned over the years, I've realised that I don't really need a fisheye lens anymore. I've got an L series fisheye lens. It's great for doing fisheye lens stuff, but how often do you use it?
Not very often.
Exactly. And with the adapter, it works on this camera pretty well. So I've gotten to the point where I want to have minimal lenses. It means I don't have to swap lenses over and stuff. If I've got 2 bodies, I can basically have one that swaps 2 lenses over. The other one stays with 1 lens, which is this one here. And that's pretty much my go-to. So, yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
So the question is, if Sony was to release a 24 to 105 2.8, we won't worry about the price at this stage because obviously that is a drawback. Would you consider buying it?
Why do you have to ask me questions like that, man?
I just like to, just tell you that Sony's not as good as Canon.
I think, I don't think I would know.
Why?
Because my 24 to 70 does a reasonable job at the moment. The IS would be nice, saying that I don't know if it's going to work on the FX6. Because FX6 is kind of getting a bit dated now as well in a way. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a really hard question because if they do release that, I'm guessing it will be roughly about the same price.
It would be because, the amount of technology that's gone into it.
Correct.
And you got to remember it's basically filling the void of 2 different lenses. So, and if you were to buy a Cine lens, you're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 for a Cine lens, and that's all manual. And, this is a Cine lens that has auto features built into it as well, which you can bypass. Look, it's not a full-blown Cine lens, so let's be honest. At the end of the day, Cine lens has got bigger throw and everything else. But it's very close, right? And it wears 2 hats. And, if you're buying both a photo and video lens, it would cost more than what this lens is worth. So I think
if you're starting off, you potentially can splurge out and obviously buy it, just for the fact that you're covering the whole spectrum range of millimeters or whatever you want to call it. If you already have the 24 to 70 and 70 to 100, meh.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I don't have that one because I've just started off on the RF series. In saying that, we also have to remember that there is the RF 24-105 f4, right, which is the cheap brother.
How much is that one?
$1,700, yeah. So
it's not cheap, but
it's not. But it's the cheapest in the L series lenses. It's an L series lens. Yeah. L series is usually $3,000 onwards.
Correct. Yeah.
So it is cheap for what it is. And it's a good lens. I would personally say I did some travel photography using that particular lens, and if you're doing long exposures, f4, f2.8 makes no difference. right?
100%. Yeah.
You know, so for photos, it's absolutely perfect. It's only if you're in dark sort of situations where you want to get a little bit more
really
light.
want to open up. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of these cameras now, you can jack up the ISO like there's no tomorrow.
Correct.
I accidentally left my camera on auto for a couple of photos until I realised, and it took photos at some ridiculously high ISO, which I would never have even dared to do with my old 5D. You know, and when I put them onto the computer, I was expecting them to look like sandpaper, really grainy and horrible. It was actually a really nice image.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a touch grainy, but all things considered, for at the ISO that it was at, it was amazing. So you can ramp up the ISO. You can use the f4 if you want to. If you don't have the money to go off and spend $5,000, and let's be honest, it is a lot of money for a lens. You know, unless you're in the industry, it is overkill, right? Unless you're obsessed with these types of things, then you know it makes sense. Yeah. Well, no, I'm in the industry, so I can justify it. Tax write-off. But the f4 version is a good lens as well. So if you don't want to spend the money, you can still get away with the f4.
I mean, we all used f4, 24-105 f4 for a long EF, for instance.
You had a 24-105.
I had it for years, years, and that was fine. I mean, I took it to Iceland with me. I took it to Norway with me. You know,
that's a travel lens. It does everything.
It was good, yeah.
And then you sold it to me, and I traveled the world with it.
And you killed it.
Well, eventually, after I think I had it for like 5 years, and then it just completely died on us. It was a Series 1. And
it was really old. I think, I got it when I first got my Mark III, 5D Mark III, I think it was.
It was about 17 years old when it died, so that's not bad.
Yeah, it's reasonable, for amount of, clickers.
Anyway, that's pretty much it. My feeling is it's a great lens. If you can afford it, grab it. It's fantastic. Don't listen to the crappy reviews that are out there from people who have literally had the camera for, 10 minutes and then making claims about how good it is or isn't.
Have you actually watched YouTube sort of reviews on it?
I have. I was curious to see, because I made up my own mind before I saw the reviews, and I knew what I felt about the thing, and then I watched the reviews, and and some of the stuff there's some good stuff out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some really intelligent people who use the equipment to the maximum abilities of the camera or to the lens or whatever. But there are some people out there who you just sit there and you think to myself, my God, do people actually watch this? They've got no idea what they're talking about. They're airheads. There was one of them telling us, it's too heavy to lift above your head and take photos of people from above your head. I was like, what the fuck are you trying to do? It's not designed for that purpose. Why would you lift the camera above your head and take photos of people from above your head?
Well, when you stay in the crowd, man, then you obviously, want to take... No?
I don't it's not my style. But, I mean, and they're saying, sure, it's not designed to be, it's a huge camera.
Yeah.
A huge lens, it's...
Well, to be able to get those features, it has to be that big. That's what I'm saying.
It does. So there is a drawback. It's a size. If you want that, you've got to, accept that it's going to be big. It's going to be heavy. It's two lenses in one. If you're willing to deal with that, great lens for you. If you're not willing to deal with it, go for the f4. Okay.
Thanks, Evan.
Sorry.
For that
how long did that go for?
Over an hour, I think it is.
Jesus, I can ramble on about lenses, can't I?
Yeah, this is gas for you, mate. This is the gear acquisition syndrome.
Hey, I just want people to know what they're getting themselves into. It is a great lens. And sorry, before we finish off, I think it was last episode, we did an episode about social media and how much I hate it.
Yeah.
We actually got a lot of response about that and stuff which... I was dumbfounded.
How many times did you say crap?
No, it wasn't that. Yeah, don't ever let my children listen to this again. No, but we actually got a lot of responses. We actually even got an audio recording sent to us from one of our listeners who basically said that the episode made them laugh, that's great. So that's what I'm trying to achieve, because, but they actually said that they completely understood what we were saying and they felt the same way. And it's interesting to see other people's perspective, because I mean, I'm very skewed.
We just ramble on about crap that we just think it's relevant to
ourselves, but there's other people out there who find it relevant too, and so thank you to all the people who actually got in contact with us, and thanks to the person who actually did the audio recording. I won't say names. You heard it.
It was quite funny.
It was good. And they completely agreed with us, which I didn't expect, to be quite honest. I thought everyone.
I wasn't expecting that as well.
I just thought everyone really loved social media. So thank you to the listeners who responded. If you ever want to hear anything, in particular, you got any questions for us, if you want us to review something, or if you've got any questions that you want us to talk about, reach out.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Have fun. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week. See you in a fortnight's time.
Toodaloo.